my name is Ceara and welcome back to my channel. This video is the second of a two-part series where I share my reading, this one being 2024 reads. Settle in because in 2024 I read a total of 65 books. As always, this would be rapid fire reviews as we would be here a really long time if I did any in-depth ones. Grab a snack and your favorite beverage, and because here we go. The first book I finished in the year was Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. It's a story about a group of children sequestered away from society to grow up in this school for a certain purpose that's revealed at the end of the book. I think I overhyped it in my mind and I didn't hit it as hard as I wanted it to. I would still recommend it to those who are interested. Next up is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. It was a beautiful and magical found family journey of love and acceptance. I would highly recommend it. Then I read Ducks, 2 Years in the Oil Sands by Kate Beaton, which I gave 4 stars. It's a graphic novel memoir, chronicling Kate's time working in the Alberta oil sands in order to pay off her student loans and the sexism she faces as one of the few women in her industry. I would highly recommend it. Next up, I read Chainsaw Man Volumes 1 to 14 by Taksuki Fujimoto, which I mainly rated 5 stars. This is a manga series about Denji, who tries to pay off his and his father's debt by killing devils. Then he somehow turns into the Chainsaw Devil and continues his work to kill devils that are harming his world. This was really fun and funny. It gets more interesting as the volumes move along. I recommend it for those who are interested. Then I read Imaginary Friend by Stephen Chbosky, and I rated it 4.25 stars. This is a horror novel about a boy who is told by an imaginary friend to build a treehouse, and the town he lives in is affected by some dark entity. It was really freaky, though considering how long it was, it did start to become exhausting. Next up, I read Heartstopper Volumes 1 to 5 by Oseman. This is a young adult romance graphic novel about Charlie Spring, a gay high schooler in the UK who meets Nick Nelson in his homeroom class, and they fall in love. The story deals with bullies, coming out, and mental health. It was beautiful, and I reread volumes 1 to 4 in order to read number 5, and it always makes me cry. I highly recommend it if you haven't read it already. Then I read The Horizon, volumes 1 to 3 by Jung Ji-Hoon. This is a Korean manhwa that I rated 4 stars. It's about 2 children in an end of the world situation trying to survive. It was really bleak and dark, and I recommend it. Next up is a reread. I read A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness, which I gave 5 stars. It is a middle grade, and I read the illustrated edition. It follows a young boy who is visited every night by a monster wanting something. It's about grief and illness, and is worth a read. Then I read The Wolf Suit by Sharpe, which I gave 4 stars. This is a children's graphic novel about a sheep who decides to wear a wolf suit while venturing into the forest to stay safe. It was cute and dark. The next few books I read were Dinner with a Vampire and Autumn Rose by Abigail Gibbs, which I gave 4 stars and 3.75 stars respectively. They are adult fantasy romances about a secret world of vampires in modern society. They follow certain characters known as the Dark Heroines. I like the series from reading early drafts on Wattpad in 2010, and then it got published. The published series is currently unfinished, which really sucks. Then I read Windbreaker, volumes 1 to 6 by Satoru. It is a Japanese manga series about Bo Furin, a fighting school that protects their community from harm. It is deeper than just the fighting, and it's really emotional. And the anime is out now. Next thing I read was Leave the World Behind by Rumaan, which I rated 3.5 stars. The story follows a family going to stay in a rental house when the power and communication goes out, and the owners of the home return, saying that the whole area has gone dark. It's a claustrophobic thriller, and leaves us with a lot of unanswered questions. Then I read a series of dystopian books, Ashfall, Darla's Story, Ash and Winter, and Sunrise by Mike Mullin. It follows a teenage boy in the after events of a volcanic eruption in the United States. Everything felt really gripping and realistic. It's a solid series, and I really recommend them if you haven't checked them out already. Next up, I read Orphia and Eurydicius by Elyse, which I rated 4 stars. It is a gender-swapped version of the Greek myth of Orpheus and Eurydice. It was a nice and descriptive story. Then I read Babel by R.F. Kuang, which I rated 5 stars. It's a fantasy, dark academia-ish novel. It follows a historical Oxford with a magical twist. It was really well crafted and interesting as it had footnotes. Next up, I read Tell Me I'm Worthless by Alison Rumfitt, which I rated 3.25 stars. It was a dark haunted house novel. It wasn't exactly what I was expecting, but it was still really enjoyable. Then I read On a Sunbeam by Tilly Walden, which I rated 4.75 stars. It is a young adult sci-fi graphic novel. It was reflective with gorgeous artwork. I highly recommend it. Next up, I read Eclipse by Stephanie Meyer, which was the 3rd book in the Twilight Saga, and I don't have much to say about it as it was a reread. Then I read Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami, my first novel of his, and I rated it 4 stars. It was an interesting story about a young man and his relationship with a girl in college in Japan. Next up, I read Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, which I rated 3.25 stars. It wasn't exactly what I expected, though I knew not to expect certain things, but it was still really engaging and creepy. Then I read Welcome to St. Hell, My Trans-Teen Misadventure by Lewis Hancox, which I rated 5 stars. It is a graphic novel memoir exploring a trans teen coming into himself. The characters were very vividly portrayed, and I recommend it. Next up, I read The Accidental by Ali Smith, which I rated 3.25 stars. It made some fascinating points, but I honestly liked the seasonal quartet better. The story follows a family that comes across this person who they think everyone else in the family knows, and she causes the family to sort of tear themselves apart. Up next, I read It Ends With Us and It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover, which I rated 4.75 stars and 4.25 stars respectively. It was really readable and heartbreaking. Then I read The Employees by Olga Ravn, which I rated 4.25 stars. It was an interesting novella about a group of employees of a spaceship in the events after they discover a mysterious object. Though it was hard to grasp the narrative at some points, it was really good. Next up, I read Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice, which I rated 4.25 stars. I read it because I really enjoy the current television adaptation. I compulsively inhaled this book, and I hope to read more of the series in the future. Then I read Jane Unlimited by Kristen Kishore, which I rated 4.25 stars. The book actually made me cry, and though I didn't rate it 5 stars, it had a thoroughly interesting premise and story, and it was really unique. Next up, I read The Princess Diarist by Carrie Fisher. I rated it 3.25 stars. I found her writing to be really well done, and though I love Star Wars, it wasn't exactly fascinating subject matter for me. Then I read Molgoth by Kate Leff, which I rated 4.75 stars. It is a young adult graphic novel from a comic artist I've been following for years. It was a really engaging story, and I loved their art. Next up, I read Goodnight Poon Poon, Volume 1 by Inio Asano, which I rated 3.75 stars. It is the first in a manga series. It was interesting and I like the art style, but I'm not really sure about the story so far. Then I read Legends and Lattes by Travis Baltree, which I rated 5 stars. It is a great, amazing, cozy fantasy that follows an orc opening a coffee shop. Next up, I read I Wish You All the Best by Mason Deaver, which I rated 4.5 stars. It was a beautiful story about standing up for yourself and overcoming a traumatic event. Then I read The Road by Cormac McCarthy, which I rated 4.5 stars. It was a really descriptive post-apocalyptic story. Next up, I read Hirayasumi, Volume 1 by Kazuo Shinzo, which I rated 5 stars. It's a really sweet manga that I'll be continuing with. Then I read Cinder by Marissa Meyer, which I rated 5 stars. It was a sci-fi fairy tale retelling, and it was really readable and exciting. And finally, I read Minor Detail by Adenia Shibli, which I rated 4.25 stars. It's a dual history story set in Palestine, and it was really fascinating to read about a subject and culture I wasn't that familiar with, although it was fiction. And that was everything I read in 2024. I hope you enjoyed hearing a bit about what I read. Please comment down below if you have read anything on my list and what you've thought of it. If you haven't heard, I am attempting to write a weekly newsletter on my Ko-Fi, so I hope to see you there. Thank you for watching, and please like this video and subscribe if you want to see more from me. Thanks again, and goodbye!